The average person, for the most part, comes into each day highly influenced by what they are expecting out of that day that's in front of them. Those expectations produce emotions that either weigh us down or lift us up. Things we're looking forward to give us courage. Things we're not looking forward to drain us of courage. When we are looking forward to something, we experience joy, excitement, peace, and an abundant life kind of day. How can you experience the abundant life that Jesus gave to you? By daily setting your expectation before you ever enter the day. When we're not looking forward to something, you know, like college students, they're not looking forward to the test because they don't know that they've studied enough. Or because you're going to a court date where a judgment is being settled, or because of some kind of negative thing that is happening. When you're not looking forward to something, we experience stress, frustration, anger, and lack. And that is what permeates the day. Because we've established the day by what we expect at the beginning of the day. Okay? When we are looking forward to the day, we feel the atmosphere. Listen to this. When we are looking forward to the day, we feel the atmosphere and energy of God's Spirit and His kingdom. When we are looking forward to the day. Yes, but what if the stuff going on is tough in the day that's coming? Doesn't mean you have to experience that internally. You can establish how you will experience it as you encounter it. See, so many people have such an attitude of, life is really tough. I've got lots of hard things in my life. And you have an overall expectation for your life that you are continuing to reestablish every day as you wake up. Some people say, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. That means that you have established an atmosphere of expectation that is ruling your life. When we're not looking forward to something, we're experiencing the atmosphere of the flesh and the evil one. Which do you prefer? So the title of what I want to talk about, the handle I'm putting on it to help you to recall what our focus is facing the day with hope. Facing the day with hope. Now, when I say hope, I mean the God version. I don't mean 20th Century Society's Webster's Dictionary version. Did you know that Webster's Dictionary was not written by God? So you can't find out what he means by words you see in the scriptures by going to Webster's Dictionary to find out. The God version of hope, we explained last week, is what? We can encapsulize it, if that's a word, that's not a word. Capsulize it, you don't have to use and. We can capsulize it, really, with this. Right, Celeste? Looking forward to. That is the descriptive phrase that defines God's kind of hope. When I am looking forward to either, it doesn't have to be what we would call a spiritual thing. If I'm going to play golf, let's say, as an example, since I enjoy golf, if I'm going to know I'm going to play golf, I wake up looking forward to playing golf. Well, that wasn't spiritual, looking forward to golf. That's all right. God is all over that because it's a sport that came together for, it's just a creative way of having fun for some people. All right? And so therefore, you want to make it spiritual? Then look forward to going and playing golf or whatever you looking forward to. Or Elizabeth, going forward to work because you just love to go to work. Yeah. With gratitude. So you say, God, I'm looking forward to golfing today. See, this is how you can worship waking up. You know, there's all different kinds of ways. We all have seasons of how we do things. I happen to be on a Gary Jones season right now. And there's a certain way that he talks about that he wakes up in the morning and he spends the first 45 minutes or whatever, I don't remember. When he wakes up, he's laying there in bed and he says, good morning, Jesus. Good morning, Father. Good morning, Holy Spirit. And just releases a heart of gratitude and thanksgiving and just kind of floats in that. All right? And that is, we all do things in different ways, and that just happens to be the way that I'm doing it. I don't know what triggered that. And what I used to do for the first, 45 minutes, hour in the morning, I'd go down and sit in front of my computer and I'd play a gospel, something that stirred me up, and I would pray and I'd read scriptures, I'd do meditation and that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, I just really enjoyed laying there and not going to sleep, but starting my fellowship with God by saying, good morning, Lord. And then I began to just imagine in my heart gratitude. And I don't know how long this message will last because I'm very eclectic in my personality. Trey, it'll probably switch, and in a couple of weeks I'll be doing something different. The point isn't the style of how you show up to have God in your life. One size doesn't fit all. It's what's working at that moment that is anointed for you, where you're actually making a connection with God in a special way. How do you know you're making a connection with God? Because something is going on in here, in your feelings. How do I know if I'm making a connection with God? Because I can feel it. But what people don't realize is that you can nurture the feeling it part. You don't have to just wait until some sovereign wind blows that gives you goosebumps. The point is that you can do things that nurture the atmosphere of connection with the Father, connection with heaven. Stuff you're not looking forward to, choosing hope and looking forward to seeing, I'm looking forward to what God's going to do in this. I'm looking forward to God showing up with me in court. I'm looking forward to, you name the rest of the sentence. I'm looking forward to what God's going to do. That is the Bible, the God definition of what hope is. That activates faith. And faith activates it. Hope, they kind of work back and forth together. I mean, we're scientific, Western culture people, and we like to divide things up and say, well, this is faith, and this is hope, and this is something else. And actually, they really kind of stir together in many ways, and you don't know for sure which activated which at what time. But you know it's activated to do. Looking forward to Him going before us and making the crooked place straight. Making the unjust just. Remember, when it doesn't seem like it's happening as fast as you want it to, how long do you do it till it works? You don't give up. You know, my wife and I are enjoying, I probably shouldn't admit this, I don't know. We're enjoying the new season of American Idol. In fact, it's so much better than it used to be. The coaching is so much better than it used to be. Lionel Richie has got so much wisdom that he's sharing with those contestants. And this is one of the things he said. It's not how well you can throw the punch, it's how well you can take the punch. Now think about that for a minute. A lot of people are not taking the punch very well because they're attaching it to throwing the punch, and they don't feel particularly talented, and they're not particularly good at what they're doing, and they decide, I'm gonna step out and I'm gonna prophesy, you know, and then it comes out, and okay, I gotta sit down now. That didn't make any sense. And then the devil throws a punch at him, saying, see, you're stupid. That wasn't a prophecy. That wasn't God. Well, what are you going to do with that? You just got punched. How well are you going to take the punch? How well you take the punch or could have to do with how many of you have been in situations in your life where you decided, okay, you know, I'm going to start that tithing thing. And for a little while you do. And then all of a sudden, it didn't. I thought I was going to get rich. And God didn't meet my needs. Okay. And so I can't do that anymore because I can't afford it. So you didn't take the punch very well. But for the future, you can take the punch better, whether it has to do with exercising spiritual gifts, or when you pray for somebody and you pray and you finally get up the guts, get up there and lay hands on them and pray. And so how do you feel? I still am in a lot of pain. So you go, oh, so you, boom, you got a punch. How well do you take the punch? If you take the punch, then you pray again the next time, or again then. If you can't take the punch very well, you stop. And so what Lionel Richie was telling the contestants is, some of you are going to be eliminated right now. Because he said that during the elimination that went from top 14 to top 11, or 10. And he said, some of you who are great, great singers, highly talented, are not going to make it to the top 10. How well are you going to take the punch? Are you going to keep singing? Are you going to keep moving forward? It's not about how well you can throw a punch, it's how well you can take a punch. It's like the old Rocky movie. It's not if you get knocked down, it's if you get back up. Are you going to get back down? Or are you going to lay on the carpet whimpering and giving up? Well, that hurt. Well, I know it hurt, and I'm not uncompassionate to that. And this has application in all of our lives, in one level or another. In the Gospels, this is real important here. Because, do you know who you are? Really, do you know who you are? In the Gospels, we read about the disciples of Jesus, right? And those were his disciples back when Jesus was walking the earth. And you read statements that he's made to his disciples, and you want to take that personally, but still it's a historical statement, right? And that's the way we do apply a lot of scriptures, because it was enacted a long, long time ago. And how do I actually make that personal today? Except that the scriptures are eternal. He has an eternal word. But Listen to the whole thing I'm going to say right now. Today, we are disciples of the Holy Spirit. We are disciples of Jesus. I'm not talking about Pentecostal doctrine now. I'm not getting all charismatic-y. I'm talking about what God said. Because he said in John 14:25, all this I've spoken while still with you. And he had just told them a lot of principles and things that they could expect. And he was also giving them words to cheer them up because he was leaving, and he told them that. And oh no. But the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, or in other words, in my place. So you can correctly understand in my name, depending upon the context of the scriptures, where that's being spoken, on variances or variations of words. In some cases it means in his authority, but another one that actually means that, but it's just has a little bit different nuance, is in my place. Well, if I'm praying for you, Elizabeth, in the authority of Jesus, I'm praying in his place, as if he was standing there. In fact, sometimes I ask people to imagine that Jesus is standing right there. Because when I pray in his name, I am praying with his authority, because he gave it to me to pray with. I am praying in his place. So he said that the Holy Spirit would be sent by the Father to take the place of Jesus in the earth, who would now be representing Jesus in the hearts of the disciples. That means you today, yes, you're a disciple of Jesus, but actually it's more full to think of and more, the right word isn't accurate, but it's more picturable. You and I today are disciples of the Holy Spirit. Jesus is in us and one with us, and later on he did say, you heard me say, I am going away, but I'm coming back to you. Well, he didn't come back physically. He will someday, but he didn't come back physically. But he did come back. But how did he do that? As the Holy Spirit. Jesus has now come to us as the Holy Spirit. So that's one of the ways I like to personally identify my praying with him, when I'm addressing. I can call on Father, I can call on Holy Spirit, I can call on Jesus. It's all accurate, because you know the most accurate way to say, when you read the word God in the Hebrew scriptures, it's God's. Because it's plural in Hebrew, but it doesn't read right when you put it that way. And because God's one, but he's three. And it really, it says in the first verse of the Bible, in the very beginning, or at the height of everything, God created the heavens and the earth. That's a short way of saying, in the beginning, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit created the heavens and the earth. Because we can't wrap our head around it. But you know the things you cannot wrap your head around, Trey? Wrap your heart around it. There are many things we can't wrap our limited head's ability to understand around something of a spiritual nature. But there are many things in the Spirit you will not be able to wrap your head around that will just plain flat out sound weird. Like, tell me, you're seated with Jesus literally in the heavens? That's not a statement on a Hallmark card. You're actually in heaven with Jesus right now. Let me give you another one. You'll like this. The next time you pray for somebody, you can be right with them when you're praying for them. And I would encourage you to be with them, to extend your spirit to there. And it's here, but there. And imagine you are standing right with them. See, you can't wrap your head around that. Let me tell you a cool thing about science. It's coming around. The old line materialist scientists are having a hard time budging. But the new breed is beginning to discover there's a whole lot of things that science doesn't know, and they're beginning to get a grasp on things of quantum nature where they really thought it's not possible, but now they're understanding that it is possible. They're beginning to understand the things that actually have even a closer corollary to a supernatural world, supernatural life, which is who you are. There's not just a mechanism. Do you know who you are? You're a son and daughter of God, made of heaven dust. Who was given an organic body by God, who was created by God in an organic body. But let me tell you something else that's really very interesting. Most of the time when we say, well, I'm just dirt, we're thinking of the post-fall dirt. But God did not create us with post-fall dirt. He originally created this body with pre-fall glory dirt. And that's what we are returning to and achieving, in a sense, when we are looking to God to reorder things that have fallen apart in our DNA back to their original form. And that's what's taking place. Little by little by little, there's a restoration taking place on planet Earth. There are those who are beginning to believe that they, in fact, can be restored. And to a certain level, he said, he renews our youth like the eagles. Do you know that science has proven that when exercised, the muscles get younger? They are restored to a youth. Now, let me throw another scientific fact that they have begun to discover to you. DNA is not fixed. You say, well, it's my DNA. DNA is fluid. It's flexible. It can be changed. And they've discovered that as well just in the last decade. It's malleable. And so if your physical DNA is broken because of sin, you can believe God to supernaturally, in cooperation with you, spirit man or woman, to reorder your DNA to what it was in its original pattern. You're not stuck with fallen DNA. See, that right there is worth the price of admission as you begin to get a hold of it. See, this whole healing thing is about something much bigger and more wonderful than we even imagine. When he works, there's peace and rest. When we work, there's stress and sweat. I'm going to say that once more. When he works, there's peace and rest. How do I know if I'm allowing God to work? Because I'm at peace and rest. I sense and I feel, with a capital F, because that's where I'm going next. I feel peace and rest. How do you know whether or not you are attempting to do the work? When you feel stress and sweat. It's not about what you're feeling out here. We go out and we do hard jobs. I don't know how in the world Cable can be a cement worker at his age and all of his life. Like, that's a hard job. That's a sweat, strainful job. But it's not about, when we talk about sweat, working by the sweat of your brow, that doesn't mean you'll never ever have hard jobs again. It means that internally, he can be, or anybody can be, ruled by peace and rest. He may be sweating here, but in here he's in peace and rest. You can be doing hard work and your physical, organic body can be sweating, but you go home and your body might be tired, but you've been with Jesus all day and you feel peace and rest and energized from the labor. Did you know that a lot of people are so tired at the end of the day because they were mentally tired all day long? They're so tired mentally. They're so stressed going into the day. They're just tired before they start. But you know what? Just like the title of this teaching, Facing the Day with Hope, we can learn to face the day with hope. But now I need to jump into the next part that I will conclude with in the next few minutes. The primary reason we come short of honestly experiencing, not just say we are experiencing it, and we have put on an act. The primary reason we come short of experiencing those things of joy and peace and patience and kindness, and that's what you get by being a disciple of the Holy Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit. This fruit of the, you get all messy with the fruit of the Spirit. It leaks all over you. It's all over you. Peace, joy, patience. You get covered. You get saturated in the juice of His fruit. Because that's who He is. And that's what you can expect for your life when you are a disciple of the Holy Spirit. Which is a disciple of Jesus. Which is a disciple of the Father. Then add to that, beyond natural, when you begin to experience beyond natural joy. But guess what? Right up here, the brain, the thought process, that will never give you supernatural joy or any kind of joy. The mind, see, your thought, your thinker, your brain, it's a computer. It stores information. It does not feel. And feeling, in fact, are like a bird who has two wings, and it seems like you're flying circles in life. It very well be you're trying to function in life like a one-winged bird. And what I mean by that is you have allowed our society, our Western mind thought position, to be all about thought and all about logical reason. And let me, before you misunderstand me, let me say, we have to have what the mind will give us. We have to have what the computer spits out that we put in. Now remember, garbage in, garbage out. That's a computer term. And if you load your computer with garbage, that's what's going to come out. It's garbage in, garbage out. But what you load the computer up with It spits out and it communicates. But here's the mistake that we've made. We think that we have, by understanding doctrinal positions, by putting two and two together at the right place doctrinally correctly, by understanding philosophically, we've reasoned through the theology of God and all of those. We've operated solely with the thinking process. We think that if we get that right, that will produce the peace, joy, love, patience, and everything we need. That's why we learn formulas. That's why faith became a formula to so many people. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's trying to make faith operate out of your brain. And it doesn't. Faith uses your brain, but it doesn't operate from your brain. But here is something very, very important for us all to understand. And it's one of the main reasons why we have lost out in experiencing God in our lives. It's because our mind, our brains, our computer, and our hearts speak two different languages. And they're not able to communicate with each other if we don't realize that. It's just like I could say to you, todo lo puedo en Cristo que me fortalece. Unless you speak Spanish, you do not know what I just said. That was the verse, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. One of them have to use word symbols that are Hispanic, that are Spanish. One of them used English word symbols that are symbols over a concept. Because those words are only expressing a concept. That's all words do. They express a concept. But the way the brain expresses concepts is different than the way the heart expresses concepts. But because we are so tuned to the brain expressing our concepts through English words spoken, we don't realize that our hearts want to talk and can talk even more effectively than our brains if we learn the heart's language pattern. Understand this. The heart speaks with feelings and symbols. It speaks with feelings, emotions, and metaphors. Let me put it to you this way. You know, when we've done some teaching on dreams, you know that all dreams aren't just bad pizza you ate the night before. Actually, some of the times God is speaking to us through dreams. As a matter of fact, he brought a very strong word of encouragement to my wife years and years ago, when somebody that didn't hardly ever dream, that's what she told us anyway, didn't hardly ever dream. When Karen was diagnosed with cancer, we announced it to the congregation. This individual came up to me, and see, that makes my dream make sense. I just had a dream last night. And I won't go into the details of the dream, but the dream said symbolically that something was going to be catching fire in the house, but it would be caught and put out. And that dream set us off as one thing that gave us a lot of encouragement because we knew God had spoken it. That was a concept dream. The thing that happened in the dream didn't literally happen physically. It wasn't about things that literally happen. It was about what those things mean, what they symbolize. If you see a flag with a big blue W on it, you know that means the Chicago Cubs won the World Series all in one symbolic flag. It said all of that to you. See, that's what I mean by that. So your dreams don't have to be about the precise things that are going on in the dream. It's about the message that the dream is conveying. All right, so therefore, that means, now listen, that means God, where do you think the speech is going on? Your brains are shut off at night. Your heart is speaking. God is speaking in the arena of your heart. When that's taking place, when he's bringing a message to you. So what does that mean? It means that God understands symbols and feelings. And you can pray a prayer that you don't say one single word, but with compassion, you are issuing some symbol before the Lord, and he hears that as the completed prayer of 1,000 words. Now see, that's something that's new to grab onto. That's hard to get your head around because we are so big on saying the right things. We've received so much teaching on saying the right faith vocabulary, the right words, because the English Bible happens to use the word word as a description of the Son. And so we translate that to mean speech that we utter. And it doesn't only mean that. It does mean that, but it doesn't only mean that. So therefore, the head speaks logic and facts. We need to get the building materials together. We need to get good, logical, factual building materials together. That happens with the head. Then we build the house, or in cooking the mise en place, the ingredients that are all chopped up. We get all the ingredients together. We get the good stuff together. Or it's the notes. We learn to play the individual notes. You know, the musicians that transport you are the ones that have learned the discipline of playing the notes, but now they play those notes with their heart. In fact, they can even make mistakes with the notes, and if they're playing with their heart, you're still transported. That's the reason that you can feel a word from God and get up and speak some kind of gibberish that you think sounds stupid, and how in the world, because I didn't get this philosophical, deep thought together and said. You can speak that and it'll still deeply impact somebody. How does that work? When you're speaking it with your heart, how is somebody healed when you pray for them? When you get the building blocks, the seeds, the things together, and you pray it over them with compassion, whether you even say a word or not, or you might say a word. You might say it. That's how guys like Pete Cabrera Jr., who you see all over the internet, YouTube, and how he'll even just stand next to a person, not even touch them, and say, you know what? You're going to be able to raise that arm. You think I'm kidding? I'm just going to stand here next to you. Now you just let me do the praying. They're expecting him to pray out loud, and he doesn't, and they're waiting for him, and then he'll say, you just felt something warm in your shoulder, didn't you? Oh, yeah? How did you know? Because he was praying for them with his heart and using the right English words are optional. If you want to be a great witness, be a great witness. Be a demonstration of the gospel with your heart. Anything you have to say is optional. How do I show somebody that I love them? Not with words, although that might be included sometimes. If you gain that opportunity, you let love go before you and make the crooked place straight. How do you do it? How do you love somebody? You have a heart of compassion for them, intentionally. Y'all know that you can tell when you walk into a room and the people in the room have been fighting without saying a word. You can feel it, can't you? See, this is what I can hear coming back at me right now. Not from everybody, but I can hear coming back, and this is okay. I'm going to have to think about that. I'm going to have to get my head around that. Well, honestly, you made your first mistake. See, because science is beginning to be able, and I'm closing now, science, I love science. It has not disproven God. It's beginning to discover the God factor. Science has proven that you can measure the energy fields in a room.
Yes.
And you know what they've discovered? That the energy that is emitted around the torso, around the heart, around the center of a person's being is much, much, much stronger than the field around their head. Your heart and what's going on in it has the potential of having a great impact on people. And Tabitha, you miss Jonathan. You really miss him. Did you know, and you're probably already practicing this, but you can take a step beyond. You can feel deep, intense compassion for him. In heart, in spirit, in intangibles. You can go to him right where he's at, extend your spirit to that place, and wrap your compassion around him. And it will impact him as deeply on an interior level as if you did it physically in his presence. Now you're speaking weird stuff, Pastor Gary. Now you're getting that real new agey stuff going on there.
We love you.
Guess what? Much of what we call New Age hijacked true spirituality.
Yes, right.
The church got full of fear. And so demon conscious that anything that didn't sound doctrinally conservative was demonic. And we've lost out a great deal on experiencing habitually the presence of God in our hearts. You don't just imagine it. When you do that, Tabitha, you just push the sense, for lack of better terms, I don't know what other words to use, the sense of deep compassion, a deep love, how you so deeply love him. Move that emotion with it. Because the heart's language is feelings and symbols together. And that impacts the environment that's around you. And science is beginning to discover it's true. How long will it take? Just be loving all the time. Just make that a habit anyway. Okay? And this is how the heart speaks. This is the attitude the heart speaks with. As if it's already done. Because that's faith. It's faith language. And the symbol of faith language, the metaphor of faith language is you exude gratitude because you see it, because you can choose to do that. That's within your purview as a spirit man and woman. You have control over your imagination. And even when circumstances look totally opposite, just, as Graham Cook says, think another thought, but feel another feeling. If you're feeling a lack of peace, then exchange it for peace. And you're doing that with the Holy Spirit. You're relying on the Holy Spirit. You're not making it up. You just go, Holy Spirit, let's change that. You say, yes, amen. Yes, amen. Change it. Change how you're feeling. Because you can do that. See something? Okay, this is the last illustration that I will give, and then I'm finished. This illustration is this. I have now been consistently praying for Karen as it relates to her physical condition. One of these days, she's going to walk in here without the cane. Amen. I know that. I'm hopeful based on, I am looking forward to how God's bringing that about. But I know that I have to cooperate in that as her husband. And the way I'm cooperating is on a spiritual level. Some of y'all, this sounds weird. I'm not talking phony, baloney, crazy faith. Okay? And this is how, and I do it in different words, different, But this is when I'm praying alone too. I pray over her on a daily basis, as if it's already done. I thank God for the grace that's working in her body. Okay? But also when I'm alone, this is what I see. Us dancing and jumping and leaping around. And that vision creates a sense emotionally of happiness. It feels happy when I see that. And I just do that and do that and do that. And it's good for her to do stuff like that too, because we cooperate. But it's, you make your vision in some way align with what would it look like if your prayer was answered. Father, thank you. You are giving us a new level of life that we can live on, and we can learn to live on by your Holy Spirit showing it to us. And it's called abundant life. It's waiting for us now before we die.